Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Hunt. I make this podcast to remind myself and anyone who chooses to listen that the world is full of good people. It fills my heart with hope, and my aim is that it does the same for you. Welcome to A Better World Blueprint. When you dress in the morning, how do you feel? Do you feel empowered? Or do you feel harassed, depressed, or even judged? Style Like You are a mother-daughter duo who are changing the way we look at fashion. Together, they interview people who stand out for the way they dress. And then they ask them to disrobe in front of the camera. Each episode is surprising, entertaining, insightful, and deeply moving. I hope you enjoy my chat with Elisa Goodkind and Lily Mandelbaum from Style Like You. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
What led you to Style Like You, to this particular kind of work? Everything that you do, it's so beautiful and profound, but such a unique premise. Was there a wake-up moment where you both sort of looked at each other and went, this is what we've got to do?
Kind of.
Yeah, but we don't remember the exact moment, though I'm sure there was one or two or five or 10, but but we remember the feeling of what we felt we were needed to respond to and do something about. We started Style Like You at this point over 15 years ago, or about 15 years ago, which is crazy. I was a freshman in college. We both had just in our own ways really struggled and felt alienated from the landscape of fashion and beauty media at that time, in that era. Me as a consumer of the media, feeling really insecure about my body image and feeling that in order to be part of the conversation that was happening in mainstream media at the time around what beauty was, that I had to change myself in order to fit into a mold that was not natural to me body-wise. It just, it was a time where it was just only one very, very one-dimensional kind of model existed in media as what you're supposed to look like, what every girl's supposed to look like and dress like. And I was really suffering with feeling really less than in that way, and feeling like fashion was just this mean thing that was making me feel bad about myself. But my mom
I was finding it mean in a different kind of a way.
But she was working in the industry. So I was just a bystander consuming the media and watching her do her job. But she was in the industry feeling alienated.
Yeah, so I had entered the industry kind of accidentally in my 20s, in the 80s. And it had been a perfect storm for me of finding my place and feeling like I was home, or like where I belonged, for almost maybe the first time in my life, around all of these very creative people. And in New York, downtown, in those days, where everyone, was a very bottom-up culture, and people were invited and accepted into it based on their creativity and not on resumes, not on status. It really was just a huge awakening for me to see all of these incredible human beings of every age, race, gender, body, sexuality, everything. It was this kind of utopian moment in New York, just being able to express themselves and be honored to be themselves. And we were creating editorial pages in magazines that actually were not bought, that were actually truly editorial. We were liberating ourselves. We were liberating other people through the creativity, through the vision. And it was a renaissance in a lot of ways in the fashion industry. And designers were flourishing of all different levels. In those days, you could get amazing clothes that you would have forever. And luxury wasn't literally, you didn't have to sell your house. And there was no fast fashion. So it was this really just kind of idyllic, beautiful time in the fashion industry of exploration, discovery, creativity, bottom up culture. And I was, wow, this is the world I want to live in. This is so cool. And this is so great and disruptive and exciting. And looking at all the editors of Vogue magazine, long gray hair, they're real, everyone was different, wearing something different. No one was wearing the same thing. And I was like, this is the world I want to live in. This is how I want to grow up. And then I saw the whole change over the course of 25 years. I freelanced, I had kids, I taught yoga. I left it for a while. I came back to it, and I came back to this very homogenized, anesthetized, conformist marketing machine that was designed to, just exploit and insecurities. And it was very the opposite of what I had been exposed to at the beginning. It was just all, suddenly the fashion shows were places of meanness and pretension and front row and celebrities and feeling left out. And every model had to look like or be 14 years old, not even a woman, not a curve on their body, just sad and skinny and prepubescent. And advertisers were just filling the editorial pages. And I had no room or freedom to be creative anymore. And we weren't honored or paid for what we were doing or supported for what we were doing like we used to be as artistic people and creative people, bringing, love into the world. And it was the opposite. We were selling things. And I was just kind of miserable. So I would dream in my head of an alternative or say, I want to go back to that world, and there has to be another way. And so the two of us just collided in that moment. And we decided to just shoot the people that inspired us to, to do features, to explore the individuals that we knew in our world, that a lot of them were behind the camera, that were very diverse and had a comfort in their skin, had incredible personal style. And we wanted to understand why and who they were and why they were an inspiration. And that's how it started. And that was the Closet series. And we just went into their homes and would just talk and explore, their closets and what it meant. And then eventually we weren't even talking about the clothes. We were just talking about their spirit. It wasn't even about the clothes. And that's when we started What's Underneath. And that's when everything went very viral.
So it doesn't necessarily seem like the next logical step from there to then ask your subjects to undress in front of the camera. The first time I heard about Style Like You was from a good friend of mine who's a stylist, and she said, Chev, you've got to watch these guys. They're amazing, and they get people to undress in front of the camera. And I was like, don't think you've quite read me right. I don't know that that's my thing. And of course, it is such a profound experience to watch these videos, I imagine to film and be a part of them as well, but such a clever, for want of a better word, device in order to get people to be vulnerable and authentic. But as I said, to me, not the next logical step from what you were experiencing when you were just looking at their closets. How did you come up with the idea that that was how you wanted to structure these videos?
Well, okay, so basically there's a few layers to the story, because it was actually, in many ways, this series was not our plan. It was kind of an accident. But basically we had just interviewed, at this point, hundreds of people for the closet videos. And we were learning so much from these people about what style really was. We were kind of learning what the mission of Style Like You became from the people we were interviewing at the beginning, where the thread between them all these people that express themselves so freely in their clothes, and, no matter what their body type was or age or all the things, we just sort of started to realize that their clothing was not the thing that made them have style, that their clothing was like a tool, like a paint. Paint is a tool to be a painter. But that the real thing that made them have style was their freedom and comfort in their skin. And that they were exuding style because of that. And my mom used to say to me all the time, you can be naked and have style. Or I can tell who has confident style, even if they're naked or in their underwear, because it's more about the energy. Or two people could be wearing the same thing, but one wears it with a sense of style because their energy and the way they walk and the way they move. And so one day we were like, how do we show people that? How do we show people that, it's not about like buying what's in trend or spending a lot of money, or like it could be. I mean, you're welcome to spend money if you want, but that like real, genuine personal style is coming from like being comfortable in your skin. And that real beauty is also about being comfortable in your skin and exuding that from the inside out. And it doesn't matter what you look like if you can like really own yourself from the inside out. Like clothing comes alive. And you can have style if you're the most simple person in the world or the most extravagant dresser. Like there's not one way. It's just being yourself. And so we wanted to show people that style was about like being the person on the inside, like the person that you are inside. And so we were like, let's try to show that to people by having people take their clothes off as we're interviewing them about these same kind of intimate questions about their identity and their self-image and their style, and see what happens. But we never expected it to be what it became. Our initial idea was like, let's do like a few episodes of this as like a fashion week stunt or something. We thought we would do like an anti-fashion week, like little installation or something. I don't know. I think we thought we'd like shoot a couple episodes and maybe have an event, like just to sort of do something rebellious during fashion week one year. And then the videos like just started going viral. But as far as like conceptually, yeah, we just wanted to show people that, style was about the spirit of the person underneath the clothes. And we didn't expect that it was going to become this like hit such a chord and we were going to continue it for 10 years like we have, and that it was going to become our main thing. But we also didn't really anticipate that it was going to become this like vessel or vehicle through which every like ill of our society was like revealed and explored, and people were reclaiming themselves in this way. Like we somehow the undressing, which at the beginning we literally were just like, let's show people that true style is about self-acceptance. But then as people were taking off their layers of clothes, it became like this like metaphoric removal of like all the ways we've been taught to like feel shame, or every way we've been conditioned to be and think that is like toxic or coming from patriarchy or white supremacy, or every single way that we've all been conditioned to feel less than came out, and people were sort of removing it from their bodies as they were like removing their clothes, and then like reclaiming themselves outside of these systems as just the sort of pure version of themselves without that. And so it became way bigger and it became more layered than we ever expected.
Part of I think the success from an outside looking in, part of the success of that process, though, is also the questions that you ask in that process of the undressing. And often they are the same questions, but they're very powerful, and I feel you must deliver them in a very sensitive way for people to be able to respond the way they do. But I'm just wondering, in that initial crafting of the questions, Elisa, maybe you can talk to that. Like, was that a process, or was that something that evolved?
It took 3 minutes.
I'm laughing because we literally sat down for the first person was arriving, and we were like, what should we ask them? And then we were like, and then we came up with like this flow of questions that ended up becoming like kind of magical that we used for for everyone. And it was just this like lightning in a bottle moment of like, the order of them was like, I guess we just had an intuition, but it started like with the more surface, and then got deeper, and like with the layers. And I don't know, it just became something that we almost never revised in 10 years. Like from the 3 minutes we did it before the first person got there.
And everyone inevitably goes through a catharsis. It's like a full circle. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, like, yes, the way we have like, a standard like 10 questions that we ask in every interview, but in between we're connecting like very intimately and personally with that person and asking a bunch of follow-up questions that are unique to the person and that we don't plan, and we don't always include that in the actual final product. But so the 10 standard questions that we ask everybody we came up with in like a minute before.
We also share our own pain. We share ourselves a lot, which is I think is part of it's an important part of that, is that the audience doesn't see that because that gets cut out, but we are exchanging. We are being equally vulnerable back.
Yeah, and that's also why we've done it ourselves a couple of times too, because we just felt like we can't ask people to be so vulnerable with us without like walking the walk and doing it too. So we did it also.
Well, the thing about those questions for me as well is that you really are. Um, I mean, it's what good journalism is what you're putting that question out there. They're the same questions to everyone, and it allows them. What we get as the audience is such different responses to the same questions every time, but there's a real continuity between all your different pieces because you do have those base questions, and there's something with all of the videos that comes together because of that. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I look at what's underneath a little bit sometimes, like a glass of water or something, or that it's a container that can hold everyone and everything, and then that person just fills the glass up. It's almost like the questions are the glass, and it's the same glass, and then the person brings it to life.
Yeah, that's a good one. And same with the stool. Yeah, we basically use the same stool that everyone sits on for almost every interview, except for when we started. We have a backup for certain like body types, and also for like for couples, because we started doing couples, we got different stools. But the stool I also was purchased. The one stool that was purchased like 5 minutes before the first person. We were like, what should what should they sit on? And we were like, maybe a stool. And so then we ran to the hardware store.
Sometimes people have said, why don't they sit in something more comfortable? This isn't fair. But that's the whole point.
Well, it's like there's something about that's like part of the vulnerability is like it's a little wobbly. It's a little hard. It's like, yeah.
This is what I'm really curious about as well, is that you say it could have just been for you guys at the point a little, maybe a stunt. You weren't seeing it as something that would have any longevity. But as you started to discover there was something more in this, that you needed to keep doing it, what did you do then? Because you have to make a living, and these sorts of projects take a lot of time and effort and money to set up. Was that a hard process to make it something viable that you could still do the work and, of course, pay for rent, pay for food, all the things you need to live?
Brutally hard.
It was hard the whole time. It's been hard the whole time, that side of it. But we were unstoppably, maniacally committed to making it happen. So we made it happen, even though we would lose sleep a lot around how we would.
We finally, actually, the reason we were late for this is because we have managers for the first time. We didn't even understand that you're supposed to have a manager. And we've been literally doing this ourselves the whole time.
Yeah.
And landing along the way, not a bad job of it, like sponsorship deals for what's underneath in closets. It took a lot of work, but we pulled it off.
But that's always been a big challenge for sure.
And what was it, do you think, Lily, through that kept you at it when it was that hard?
I don't know. I think we were just, it's like hard to explain just the mission we were on, the relationship we had with our guests, and then the ways the videos were making a mark on people, and the ways the messages we were getting, like that was all so fueling. And then I think we were
purpose.
Yeah. I just think we felt really like in our purpose. And then also, I can speak for myself. For me, it was like the medicine that I personally needed to heal my own relationship to my body and whatever I was going through. It was always speaking to me directly, like at whatever phase of my life I was at. And I think that just also is always like a driving force. It's just like my own desire to heal was kind of like, I'm going to keep interviewing these people. I'm going to keep doing this healing. And like the healing that it's done for the viewers, it's been doing for us. So it just came from such an authentic place in us of we were learning like and growing alongside everyone else. Like we weren't just like coming at this like we're healed and we're going to show you how to heal through this. Mm-hmm. We were like we're feeling all the same things that everyone else is struggling with, and we're so curious to meet these people that inspire us to reprogram our own brains and our own sense of self and find our own freedom, that we were just like really driven by that.
I see you're nodding, Elisa. So you feel the same way as Lily about what kept you going through those?
Yes. I mean, really genuinely falling madly in love with everybody we interview. And for me, there's never been anything more exciting in life than to feel like you're making a difference in other people's lives. Like it's just the most euphoric feeling. The other night I was hosting an event in New York, and this happens a lot. I also talked to someone this morning. They both said the same thing. And we've heard it a lot, that they've been watching the video since they're 12 years old, they're 30, and that it's impacted so many people in, a generation of people. And I'm like, wow, I'm so unbelievably grateful for that. I feel like it's been such a gift. No greater gift, really.
I think you've definitely both talked about this, Lily. You were just mentioning there that you and your mum are sort of healing alongside those others in the audience that are watching, and your guests as well. Would you say that's the main way this work has changed you, or have you noticed other changes in yourself because of the work?
I mean, I think the work has changed me in the actual challenges of running like the business and finding a way to sustain what we've been doing has been also a schooling for me of like, and it has formed me equal to the like inner healing of my body image and my discovery of who I was, like in a more intimate way, that the interviews and the people that we interviewed healed sort of like my deeper maybe wounds, or like no one's ever healed, but have been healing in my like deeper inner stuff around like my body and self-worth and self-image and all of that. That for sure has been just like completely transformative. And then I think on the flip side, like the challenge of creating this and finding a way and being really like entrepreneurial and resourceful and resilient and like failing a million times and standing back up and being like, I will find a way to do this, even if I don't know what it is, has given me like a sense of self and confidence. Has been like formed me, because I've never had another job really. I started this, as I mentioned, when I was a freshman in college. So that's just like how I'm not afraid of like things being hard or having to be really like scrappy or creative about how you go about making something happen. Maybe I have to work now on thinking that things could be less hard, because I think I've gotten pretty
Yes.
I've gotten pretty used to the idea that like it's really hard to do what you love. That's probably now where I have to work on, is like maybe ease, but I certainly am not like afraid of things being hard or risky.
Elisa, I wonder what your perspective is, because of course you're at a different phase of life than Lily, and you've had kids and you've worked and you've been in an industry that began, as you said, really creatively, where you probably were taking risks even then. Has doing Star Like Us changed you in any way?
It's completely changed me. It's an endless digging deeper and finding my strength, whatever twist and turn it's taking me on. There's always the new beginnings, peaks, back to beginnings. It's a constant self-exploration, a constant journey to self-discovery, a constant comfort in the struggle, a feeling of being at home, doing something that I believe in, and or that is a vehicle for my own expansion. All of it is just a new growth and a new challenge. And what is the message, and what am I trying to say, and what do people need right now, and what can Style Like You offer as time goes on. I just re-listened to this talk that Malcolm McLaren gave called Authenticity versus Karaoke Culture, that very much influenced me when Style Like You was starting. When I heard it, I was like, oh, that's what we're doing. Like, he says something about the importance of being fearlessly willing to fail. And Would you rather be a magnificent failure or a benign success in life? I think that we've kind of magnificently failed into success, and then you fail again and you go to another place. And I feel it's given me strength.
I do like to ask everyone if they've seen the impact of their work. And I can't think of anything a bit more profound than changing a young person's view of themselves over the time of work that you guys have been doing. And you gave that example, Elisa, where you've heard people tell you that's the change you've made in their lives. I wonder if there are any other impacts that you can think of that kind of either stopped you in your tracks or just made you think, again, we're on the right path, we're doing the right thing, look at the change we're making in the world.
Yeah, for the guests have often said that it was a turning point for them. Lizzo.
We interviewed Lizzo when she was not yet famous, and she was the first time that she ever took off like her wig and her clothes on camera, and she was still really like not in this sort of like state of owning her body that she's become like known for. And at that point, and she has gone on to say that that was like a big turning point in her journey with her self-image and like with realizing she needed to like lead with her body instead of like hide it. And obviously then she went on to be, make a big impact in that regard. So that kind of thing. But I think it's
right. The ripple effect
of it
is exciting.
Yeah. But I mean, mostly it's just been like the comments, the messages, like meeting people in real life. Like if we've ever had events and just like hearing directly from people that it has impacted them and their self-image in any way. I mean, yeah, we've gotten just lots of beautiful messages in person and online that just kept us going when we were like really stressed.
I think it's been an absolutely profound lesson in alignment, in surrendering. We don't even know how this happened. We just kind of said yes, like there was no map. I think it's given us both a sense of what that feels like and what you want to feel.
I think your work is absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. It's so kind of you to give us this honor and to ask us these questions and to care. We're very thankful to you.
Elisa Goodkind and Lily Mandelbaum from Star Like You. I highly recommend you check out their YouTube channel. I'll put links in the episode notes. I'm Siobhan Hunt. See you on the next episode of A Better World Blueprint.